My name is Hunter Gauthier. I'm a student physical therapist. Today we're going to be assessing Julia's right first MTP joint extension range of motion. The reason why we are doing this is because she is getting some hip flexor pain, and I believe that it is because she's not getting enough extension in her right MTP joint within the pre-swing phase of her gait. And so she is overcompensating by trying to increase her hip flexion in order to clear the ground. For this MTP extension assessment, I'm going to be having Julia laying supine with both of her, go ahead and extend your knee, with both of her knees extended and then her feet hanging off the edge of the table. When I do the assessment, I will have her flex her left knee and have her left foot flat on the table so that I'm better able to get to that right foot. We're going to measure her right first MTP extension to rule that out so we can potentially move on to other assessments and see what's actually going on with her hip flexor. Okay. So Julia, is it okay if I palpate around your foot for certain parts of your foot to know where to put the goniometer?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm first going to palpate for the first metatarsal of her right foot, the first MTP joint, as well as the proximal phalanx of the first of her big toe. So right here we have our first metatarsal, and then we just run distally down towards the first MTP joint, and then the proximal phalanx of the first digit. So we are going to set our stationary going on the first metatarsal. Axis of rotation is going on the MTP joint. Julia, could I please have you try to make your foot without pressing like a gas pedal? I want you to try to just straighten your toe out. Thank you. A little bit more. Okay, perfect. So now we have her baseline. She can get to 0 degrees. And so now, Julia, I'm going to have you try to bring your toe up without bringing your whole foot up to you. Okay. Is that as far as you can go?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so right there we are at 74 degrees passive range, and I'm going to add some overpressure. Julia, just let me know if you're feeling uncomfortable at any point. A little bit more. Beautiful. Okay, all right, go ahead and relax. All right. All right, so when I went to measure Julia's baseline to make sure that she can get her first digit to 0 degrees, she did plantar flex her foot, which is a pretty typical patient compensation. So something else that I also noted that I didn't want her to do was to go into dorsiflexion to help give her a little bit more extension of that MTP joint. And then something else that she didn't do, and I didn't have to say, but another compensation could be medial lateral inversion eversion of the ankle, trying to get a little bit more extension on the MTP joint. Luckily, she did not. So the way that I would document this for active range of motion, I would say Julia was supine with an active range of motion of her right first MTP joint going from 0 to 74 degrees. And for passive range of motion, I would say that Julia was supine with the passive range of motion of her right first MTP joint going from 0 to 80 degrees with a firm end feel. And fortunately, typical ranges are going to be from 0 to 70 degrees with a firm end feel. So we're going to rule out the MTP extension as an issue with her gait, and we're going to start moving on to other assessments. A common PT error when it comes to passive range of motion measurements is when you are setting the goniometer. And as I did with Julia, trying to get her into extension, I could move the moving arm beyond her first digit, the proximal phalanx, or I can even push too hard. Even though this is in line, I could push too hard and actually push her into dorsiflexion, which would be a patient compensation. Today, we are going to be transferring Julia, going from her bed to a commode. She is immediate post-op, so she is very dependent. So I'm going to be transferring her so she will be able to go to the bathroom. So here I have Julia pre-positioned for the transfer. I have the table higher up so that her hips are above her knees and it is easier to get her into full knee extension. Standing dependent pivot transfer. And I've slid her closer to the landing surface, and then I've pre-positioned her feet at an angle so that we pivot as little as possible. All right, Julia. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use both of my knees to block your knees so that they are not moving too freely. I'm going to reach around you and grab the gait belt so that I can help pick you up. Um, Go ahead and try to push off the table for me to see if you can help me at all. All right, so she's not able to really get her up with her upper extremities. So I'm going to have her just hold on to my upper arms, not around my neck because I don't want her to try to choke me if she does end up falling down. So I'm going to have her place her hands on my upper arms to use for stability, and then I'm just going to get her up and then just immediately place her down. All right, so Julia, so since you cannot get up off the ground, I'm just going to have you put your hands on my upper arms. Just avoid on top of my shoulders because I don't want you squeezing in case you try to fall. In the case you do feel like you're going to fall or your knees buckle, we're going to go straight back to the table. We're not going to go to the landing surface. We're going to just try it again. Sound good? Are you ready? Okay. All right. So go ahead and place your hands on my upper arms. I'm going to block with both my knees. And then we're going to rock forward 3 times before we go over. I'll let you know. So we'll go ahead and rock forward 1, 2, and 3. All right, go ahead and reach back for the armrest and relax. There we go. Okay, so common mistakes that could happen with this is I could fully stand up and then lose contact with my knees and her knees, therefore allowing too much range of motion with her knees and potential buckling. The table could be too low, and she could also be too far away from the landing surface, so that prevents us from getting proper knee extension and getting her all the way up, as well as creating too long of a path to get to the target surface and creating too much pivoting, which just increases the room for error. Since Julia is immediately post-op today, that is why we're doing the standing dependent pivot transfer. But in a week from now, we're going to progress her to the standing assisted pivot transfer, because she won't be nearly as dependent in a week from now since she's not going to be immediately post-op.